You've been manipulated your entire life by your parents, by your teachers, by the people you thought you could trust, and maybe by yourself. Every word you've heard, every image you've seen, every choice you thought was your own, someone somewhere influenced it. The truth is, manipulation isn't rare. It's the air we breathe. But here's the twist. You've been doing it too. Every time you smiled to ease tension, every time you hid your anger to keep the peace, every time you said what someone wanted to hear instead of what you truly felt. That's manipulation. We all do it, but most people do it blindly, unconsciously, unaware of how powerful it really is. And that's where the danger lies. Because if you don't understand manipulation, you'll be controlled by those who do. This video isn't about deceiving people. It's about understanding people. It's about seeing the invisible threads that pull on your emotions, your decisions, your sense of self. It's about learning how to hold those threads, not to harm, but to protect yourself, to lead, to live with awareness. So no, this isn't about becoming evil. It's about no longer being naive. Because the world doesn't reward innocence, it rewards awareness. And today, I'm going to show you why learning to manipulate the right way might be the smartest, most freeing decision you ever make in your entire life. The word manipulation has a bad reputation. It makes people uncomfortable, defensive, even angry. Because when you hear it, your mind jumps straight to images of control, deceit, or exploitation. You think of toxic relationships, shady leaders, or people who twist others to get what they want. But what if manipulation isn't evil? What if it's just misunderstood? What if, at its core, manipulation is simply the ability to influence the emotions and perceptions of others? And what if learning how to do that consciously, ethically, and intentionally is one of the most valuable skills you'll ever have? Because whether you realize it or not, you manipulate every single day. You do it when you comfort a friend with words you don't fully believe. You do it when you hide your frustration to avoid conflict. You do it when you adjust your tone, your posture, or your expression to be accepted. Every time you choose what to reveal and what to conceal, every time you guide a conversation toward peace instead of chaos, you are influencing someone's perception. You are shaping emotion. You are manipulating reality. And that's not evil, that's human. Manipulation isn't some dark art reserved for villains or narcissists. It's part of communication itself. It's persuasion, empathy, psychology, strategy, and understanding all woven together. It's the invisible language beneath every interaction you've ever had. Think about it. A teacher manipulates attention to keep a classroom engaged. A leader manipulates emotion to inspire unity. A friend manipulates tone to comfort someone in pain. A parent manipulates with love, using stories, promises, and gentle control to guide their child. Manipulation is not the problem. The problem is when it's used without awareness or without morality. Because when you manipulate unconsciously, you lose control of it. When you don't understand the rules, you end up playing someone else's game. And there are always people who do understand. People who know how to use your emotions against you. They study the way you react, the words that trigger you, the silences that make you chase. They know how to appear vulnerable when they want attention, how to act confident when they need control, how to make you feel guilty just enough to give in. You've seen it, haven't you? The coworker who subtly takes credit for your ideas, the partner who twists your words until you start doubting yourself. The influencer who sells you confidence by feeding your insecurity. That's the darker side of manipulation. And it works because most people refuse to learn how it works. But what if you learned to see it? What if you could recognize the moment someone was trying to emotionally steer you? What if you could understand the structure behind persuasion and use it to protect your boundaries, not lose them? That's when manipulation becomes power. Not the power to dominate, but the power to choose how you respond. Because manipulation, when understood, becomes awareness. And awareness is freedom. Once you learn to see the patterns, you can't unsee them. You'll notice how people mirror body language to build connection. You'll recognize how certain phrases are designed to trigger compliance. You'll feel when someone's kindness is strategic instead of sincere. You'll start realizing that influence is the foundation of everything, from politics to love, to marketing, to friendship. Every system, every social structure runs on influence. And if you don't learn it, you'll always be at the mercy of those who have. So this isn't about becoming manipulative. It's about becoming aware. It's about understanding that emotional intelligence and influence are not evil. They're necessary for survival. Manipulation doesn't always mean deceit. Sometimes it means guiding, teaching, healing, or protecting. Sometimes it means adjusting your tone so someone can actually hear you. Sometimes it means saying less so your silence carries more weight. Because at the end of the day, the world is made of influence. Every decision, every emotion, every belief is shaped by someone's words, someone's energy, someone's vision. You can't avoid manipulation, but you can master awareness. And when you do, you'll never again be blind to the subtle forces shaping your reality. That's not control, that's clarity. And once you have clarity, you no longer have to fear manipulation, because you finally understand how to use it, not to take from others, but to protect yourself, to inspire, to lead, and to create a life that moves because you move it. Most people fear manipulation because they've only seen it in its ugliest form. They've seen it used by liars, abusers, and opportunists. They've felt the sting of being deceived, of trusting someone who only wanted control, of realizing that their kindness was never respected, only used. So when they hear the word manipulation, they flinch, they close off. They decide that anything related to influence or control must be evil. They convince themselves that distance equals purity, that avoiding power makes them good. But that belief is a trap, because when you reject understanding power, you hand it to someone else, someone who won't hesitate to use it. You can't escape manipulation by ignoring it. You can only escape it by understanding it. The truth is, the people who fear manipulation the most are often the ones who've been its victims the longest. They've been controlled by words, guided by guilt, steered by love. That wasn't really love, but dependence disguised as care. Think about it. How many times have you agreed to something you didn't want to do, just to keep the peace? How many times have you apologized when you weren't wrong, just to avoid conflict? How many times have you changed your behavior, not because you wanted to, but because someone else's emotions demanded it? That's manipulation, and it works best on those who believe they're too good for it. There's a dangerous illusion in the world, that being nice will protect you. That if you keep giving, forgiving, and understanding, the universe will somehow repay you. But the truth is brutal. The world doesn't reward good intentions. It rewards awareness. There was once a man who believed goodness alone would shield him. He worked hard, loved deeply, and trusted easily. He believed that by being genuine, the world would see his heart and treat him the same way. But people saw something else. They saw opportunity. They saw someone who wouldn't say no, someone who would bend, someone who would stay silent even when he was disrespected. And slowly, his kindness turned into a cage. He began to feel invisible, unappreciated, and drained. Every time he gave, they took more. Every time he forgave, they forgot faster. Until one day, he broke. He looked in the mirror and saw not a good man, but a powerless one. And that realization shattered him. But in that brokenness, something woke up. He started to see things differently. He started watching people, not with resentment, but curiosity. He noticed how a small pause before speaking changed how others reacted. He noticed how confidence made truth sound louder. He noticed how silence, when used with intention, could make others lean in. He began to understand that manipulation wasn't a monster in the dark. It was a tool, one that could harm or heal depending on the hand that held it. And for the first time in his life, he decided to hold it. He learned that influence isn't about deceit. It's about control, not over others, but over your own energy, your presence, your words. He realized that being aware didn't make him cruel. It made him free. When you understand how people think, you can protect yourself from those who use that knowledge against you. When you understand emotional influence, you can stop being a puppet and start being a player in your own story. Because life is a game of influence, whether you like it or not. And pretending the game doesn't exist doesn't make you moral. It just makes you vulnerable. The moment you decide to understand manipulation, you stop being controlled by it. You stop being the one who's always guessing, always reacting, always one move behind. You don't become cold or calculating, you become balanced. You start choosing your reactions instead of being driven by them. You learn when to speak, when to hold silence, when to make someone feel seen, and when to make them question their own behavior. That's not evil, that's awareness. And awareness is what turns pain into wisdom, and weakness into power. Kindness without awareness is vulnerability, but kindness with awareness, that's strength. It's quiet, unshakable, and commanding. It's the kind of strength that no one can take advantage of. Because when you understand manipulation, you no longer need to fear it. You see through it. You rise above it. And for the first time in your life, you stop being a piece on the board and start becoming the one who moves with intention. There comes a moment in every person's life when they realize something painful. That the world is not built on fairness, it's built on influence. The louder voice gets heard, the more confident face gets trusted, the more composed person gets respect. You've seen it. The smartest person in the room often gets ignored, while the one who speaks with certainty gets followed. The most deserving person at work gets overlooked, while the one who understands people gets promoted. It's not always about truth, it's about perception. And perception is power. Most people live unaware of this. They go through life thinking words are just words, that emotions are just emotions, that what's real will eventually be recognized. But that's not how life works. Because life isn't about what's real. It's about what people feel is real. And those who understand that truth hold an invisible advantage. They know how to guide emotion, how to create connection, how to control energy in a room. They know that being right means nothing if no one is listening. They know that logic alone doesn't move people. Emotion does. That's why awareness matters more than innocence. Awareness gives you the ability to see beneath the surface, to understand not just what people say, but why they say it, to see the emotions that drive decisions, to predict reactions before they happen. When you have awareness, you stop being confused by people's behavior. You stop asking, why did they treat me that way? You already know. You start seeing patterns in their tone, their body language, their timing. You start to notice that people reveal more in what they don't say than what they do. Awareness doesn't just make you smarter, it makes you untouchable. Because once you understand manipulation, you stop taking things personally. You stop reacting emotionally to people who are trying to pull your strings. You start responding from control instead of chaos. Someone insults you, you no longer bite back. You recognize it as a power move. Someone tries to guilt trip you. You see it as emotional leverage. Someone suddenly flatters you. You know they're trying to lower your guard. And when you can see that clearly, you don't get angry. You get calm. Because awareness gives you the ability to choose your reaction instead of being trapped in it. That's real power. Not money, not fame, not status. Power is calm. Power is control over your own emotions while others lose theirs. Power is the ability to see the game and decide if you even want to play. And the more aware you become, the more peaceful you become. Because the chaos that used to confuse you now makes sense. You stop blaming yourself for the actions of others. You stop trying to fix people who are using manipulation to keep you off balance. You start setting boundaries without guilt, because you finally understand that protecting your energy isn't cruelty, it's survival. Awareness is also empathy. It allows you to see why people act the way they do, to understand the insecurity behind arrogance, the pain behind cruelty, the fear behind control. When you can see that, you stop being reactive and start being intentional. You stop fighting manipulation with manipulation, and instead, you disarm it with understanding. Because once you know how the human mind works, you can communicate in a way that bypasses conflict and builds influence naturally. You can lead, you can inspire, you can teach, because you understand what makes people move. Awareness gives you power not over others, but over yourself. You stop trying to win arguments and start creating outcomes. You stop chasing validation and start commanding respect. You stop explaining yourself to people who never wanted to understand you in the first place. The truth is, the moment you become aware, everything changes. People treat you differently. You carry yourself differently. You speak with a quiet authority that can't be faked. You don't need to prove your worth anymore because you see through the illusions that used to control you. And that awareness gives you freedom. Freedom from emotional manipulation, freedom from guilt traps, freedom from the need to please everyone. That's why awareness equals power. Not power to dominate, but power to choose. To choose your peace, your boundaries, your truth. To choose when to engage and when to walk away. Because once you see the strings, you can never be the puppet again. So now you understand awareness. You understand that manipulation is influence, and influence is power. But power without purpose is poison. Because what you do with this knowledge is what defines you. You can use it to take advantage of others, to bend people to your will, to feed your ego. Or you can use it to build something greater, something real, something that uplifts instead of destroys. Ethical manipulation is not about control. It's about direction. It's not about forcing others to think like you. It's about learning to communicate in a way that makes truth easier to hear. When you understand how people think, you gain the ability to guide them, not deceive them. You can lead them toward clarity instead of confusion. You can inspire instead of intimidate. Because the greatest manipulators in history weren't always evil, they were simply aware of how humans worked. They understood fear, desire, pride, and hope. And they knew how to speak to those emotions. But here's the difference between the manipulator and the leader: intention. A manipulator wants control. A leader wants connection. A manipulator feeds on insecurity. A leader awakens confidence. A manipulator hides truth. A leader shapes it so it can be understood. That's ethical manipulation. It's the art of influence with empathy. When you learn to influence ethically, you start seeing communication as a responsibility, not a weapon. You choose your words carefully because you understand how deeply they can move someone's emotions. You use silence intentionally because you know it can say more than 1,000 words. You listen deeply because you know that understanding someone's pain gives you the power to help them, not exploit them. And when you master that balance, people start to feel safe around you, not because you're harmless, but because you're in control of your power. Real strength isn't about domination. It's about restraint. It's about knowing you could manipulate someone, but choosing not to. When you can control influence, you can change the world around you without force. You can walk into a room and shift its energy with your presence alone. You can speak in a way that makes people stop scrolling, stop talking, and listen. That's not manipulation. That's mastery. But make no mistake, you will be tested. Once you understand how to read people, once you can sense their insecurities and desires, the temptation to use it for selfish gain will come. You'll realize you could make people like you. You could get what you want faster. You could bend situations in your favor. And sometimes you might. But if you forget your purpose, you'll lose the very thing that made this knowledge powerful in the first place: integrity. Because real influence is built on truth. And truth always reveals itself over time. You can fake charm, you can fake empathy, you can fake confidence, but you can't fake awareness. Eventually, people feel who you are beneath your words. Ethical manipulation is about alignment, aligning your intent with your influence. It's using your awareness to connect, not control, to protect, not dominate, to lead, not deceive. And when you use it right, you start creating positive manipulation, the kind that heals broken communication, that helps others see the best in themselves, that turns chaos into calm. Think of the times someone's words changed your life. A teacher who made you believe in your potential. A friend who spoke truth when you didn't want to hear it. A stranger whose advice stayed with you for years. That was manipulation too, but it was love wearing the mask of power. When you learn to influence like that, you become a force of quiet transformation. You don't need to dominate people. You guide them without them realizing you're guiding. You elevate the room just by speaking with purpose. That's ethical manipulation. The kind that doesn't drain people, it wakes them up. And the truth is, when you learn to influence ethically, you'll never have to demand respect again. People will feel it, because your awareness will speak louder than your words. Everything you've learned up to this point leads to one realization: you've been manipulated since the moment you were born. not always in cruel ways, but in subtle, invisible ways that shaped your beliefs, your desires, your identity. The brands you love, the opinions you hold, the dreams you chase. All of it has been influenced by someone else's words, ideas, and intentions. And yet, most people never stop to ask, who's really in control of me? Is it my mind, or the voices that built it? You see, manipulation is not just something that happens between people. It's something that happens inside you every day. Your fears manipulate your decisions. Your guilt manipulates your actions. Your insecurities manipulate your relationships. You think you're free, but often you're just reacting to invisible forces you never stop to question. That's the illusion of control. It makes you believe you're choosing, when in reality, you're being guided by programming that was placed inside you long before you had the power to resist it. From childhood, you were taught who to trust, what to believe, what success means, what love should look like. You were molded, shaped, directed. And by the time you realized it, the mold had already hardened. But awareness breaks that mold. It doesn't destroy who you are. It frees who you are meant to be. Because once you see how the system works, once you recognize the patterns, the manipulation loses its power. You stop reacting out of fear and start responding with choice. That's the moment everything changes. Imagine this. You're in a conversation and someone tries to make you feel guilty to control you. In the past, you'd fold, you'd over-explain, you'd apologize. But now, you see it. You feel it as it happens. You stay calm, grounded, aware. You let their words bounce off your composure, and suddenly, they lose control. You realize that awareness isn't just knowledge, it's protection. It's armor that doesn't show, but shields you from emotional warfare. And that's when you begin to understand the true power of this knowledge. You no longer live on defense. You move through life with intention, with presence, with quiet confidence. But the real beauty of awareness is that it doesn't just protect you from darkness, it allows you to bring light into it. You begin to see the pain behind people's manipulation. You recognize that most manipulation isn't born from malice, but from fear. People manipulate because they're scared to lose control, scared to be vulnerable, scared to not be loved. And when you see that truth, you stop judging and start understanding. You no longer feel hatred for manipulators. You feel clarity. You see them as people trying to survive the only way they know how. That's when your awareness evolves into wisdom. You stop fighting darkness with more darkness. You start using your understanding to bring balance, to create peace where chaos once lived. Because real mastery isn't about outsmarting others. It's about outgrowing the need to. The greatest power doesn't come from controlling people. It comes from being so aware, so internally unshakable, that no one can control you. That's freedom. When you reach that level, your energy shifts. You start walking differently, speaking differently, thinking differently. People can feel it. They can sense that you're not easily swayed, not easily fooled, not easily broken. They start respecting you in silence, even if they don't understand why. Because awareness has a presence, a weight, a gravity. It changes how the world interacts with you. You stop chasing validation because you've already validated yourself. You stop seeking approval because you trust your own perception. You stop begging for peace because you've learned to create it. This is where the darkness begins to transform. It's no longer a threat. It's a teacher. You stop fearing manipulation because you see it for what it is, a reflection of human nature. And once you understand human nature, you stop being angry at it. You learn to work with it, to speak its language, to use it not for deception, but for connection. You begin to influence the world not with control, but with clarity. You use your awareness to lead, to inspire, to heal. You become the calm in the storm, the one who doesn't just play the game, but rewrites the rules silently. Because now you understand what most people never will, that manipulation isn't the enemy, ignorance is. The moment you open your eyes to the invisible forces that guide people, you become free. And that freedom, that awareness, that inner power, is what turns you from the manipulated into the master. But remember, a true master never uses power to harm. They use it to protect, to enlighten, to bring balance to a world drowning in emotional noise. That is the power of awareness. That is the heart of manipulation. Not control, but consciousness. So here we are. You've seen the truth most people never dare to look at. You've walked through the darkness and found something most spend their whole lives avoiding. The reality that manipulation is everywhere, and that awareness is the only true form of freedom. Now you stand at a crossroads. One path leads back to ignorance, the comfort of pretending not to know, where you live on autopilot and let others decide your value. The other path leads to awareness, a road that demands responsibility, focus, and strength. It's not easy, but it's real. Because once you open your eyes, you can't close them again. You'll start seeing manipulation everywhere, in words, in gestures, in silence, and you'll see it most clearly in yourself. You'll notice the little moments when you try to be liked, when you speak to please, when you hide your truth to feel safe. You'll see how you've manipulated your own mind, telling yourself stories to avoid pain, to justify your choices, to protect your ego. That's where the real growth begins, because once you recognize how you manipulate yourself, you can stop being a victim of your own emotions. You can take full control of your life. This is what true manipulation means, not the control of others, but mastery over yourself. That's the power few ever discover, the quiet, invisible strength of a mind that sees clearly. You begin to move differently. You speak with intention. You listen not to respond, but to understand. You no longer seek to win. You seek to connect. You don't demand respect. You command it. And that's when life starts to shift in ways you can't explain. Opportunities appear. People listen. Doors open. Because power, real power, doesn't chase. It attracts. But never forget this. The same knowledge that frees you can also destroy you if you lose your purpose. The line between awareness and arrogance is thin. The moment you use this gift to manipulate for greed or ego, you become the very thing you were trying to escape. So protect your intent. Let your influence come from empathy, your confidence come from understanding, and your control come from peace. Because the world doesn't need more manipulators. It needs more people who understand manipulation, so they can't be controlled by it. The next time someone tries to pull your strings, smile, because you already know the game. You can't be played when you understand the rules. You've stepped into a kind of power most people will never touch. Not the power to dominate, but the power to decide who you will be, no matter what the world throws at you. So use it wisely. Move through the world with calm awareness. Speak with intention. Lead with empathy. Protect your peace. Because the world isn't controlled by the kind, it's controlled by the aware. And now, you are one of them.